One of our my listeners created a beat for me. Let's see. Let's go. We're gonna start out with this. Definitely good. One of my listeners had sent that to me, and I said I got to start using this. Um, Thank you for shout out for them uh, for sending that to me. I could use it for my intro when I was using it through the system of the that I was using it before. It would totally delete it through the system when I wasn't going live. Um, and you say, May, why are you going live today? I'm going live because I needed a few days to really absorb and not be caught up in any emotion or thoughts, be open minded to the situation with one. I'm going to call this off the cuff. I'm going to come off the cuff with everything. I got one very, very 5-minute short video to share, but otherwise that I'm off the cuff. I have no plan. I'm coming out of me, coming out of the source of me. But we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk and the situation, but we're going to look at the situation through the lens of not right or left, but that will be implied, but the lens of everything that many know about this reality and about them who rule it and run it and purpose served. And it really hit me when I started thinking about it, of something that I even brought forth months ago that I definitely will give my hats off to Archaics for or bringing forth right around the Olympic time. But before the Olympics, we talked about we did a video here about the Olympics and the closing and opening ceremonies, how they're very much staged. We found out that they're telling you what their plan was. Hence 2012, they're really weird closing. I believe it was closing part. I believe it was the closing ceremony with all the kids and the rituals and the kids and illnesses and showing you bugs and showing you all these children in beds and then dancing and then the demons dancing. And they were really showing you about 2020 and Biddy Bid. It was. And then when you start looking at some of the ones on the recent ones, they were telling you about future things. And why I'm saying that is when you really start knowing and getting into knowledge, waking up, detaching, and which is a continual process that we do from the system, hence the matrix. We end up having these situations, right? Hopefully you can hear. I didn't bring my mic in, so my mic's really off the computer today. In the other room, somebody's using it actually for their business thing, and my wife is, so she's in there using it, which is okay. I've used my mic for my from computer way before, so as long as you can hear, I'm cool with it. So hence, more and more, I was just looking at this and needed days to absorb it instead of hearing all the rhetoric that we hear and the explanations from the media and all that. I'm not here to say yay or nay. I'm here to say that when you wake up and understand the left or right or just the opposites of polarization, politics actually means polarization of one side versus one side in a dualistic plane when we're living on this fabrication of density at a lower level of being in a density, being in a physical body where you seem the most separated from yourself until you start being woken up to yourself. You'll end up going into belief systems. And then we have a group of people who understand this and they call themselves politics or governments, which when we just take the word government means mind control. I mean, that's facts. And that's what I really see, that we really get into a state where people don't care about facts. They really will only care about their feelings and their belief systems, which are connected to feelings. and not about facts, because the reality facts don't care. They're negative about choosing what you feel, what you don't feel, how you react. They're not truth's not tapped into how you react. Knowing is not tapped into your feelings. Feelings can be, and there's nothing wrong with emotions and feelings. Let me make that clear. But when they're used out of context and you're ran by them, they're like an ocean that goes in and out. The waves go like this. That's why the whole story of walking on water has nothing to do with anybody ever walking on water. It means walking above your emotional mind, where your emotional mind's not your leader. And if it's not your leader, then it can serve you pretty well in the state. But when your emotions are your leaders or your basis of truth, you're in a rock and a hard place. And that's the problem we have here with this. So the basic foundation that I was looking at with this was I really listened in and paid attention. Charlie Kirk connection to me, not much, because I came out of traditional Christianity and that's what he pushed. He was going henceforth debating at universities against the woke Marxist culture that's been indoctrinated from these universities, because that's what they are. The universities are woke Marxist regime to indoctrinate your children with wokeism, the woke fungus. It's so bad that we call it the woke, when woke is, we know in the conscious community, that's a word we used to use. So they're masters at hijacking something that appears that really is specifically to truth, but then they hijack it and then brand it with something else that we know. When you wake up, you decode and you're like, that's not what was intention. Like a lot of things that's used and called Satan, it's called Lucifer. And then when you really understand some of the symbolisms that they hijacked and used, and you're like, that's not really what it means from the people who created it in its onset. They did not look at it like that. It did not mean that to them. But henceforth, so Charlie goes, and I started looking at it, and then there's a view I couldn't find, but I seen somewhere else. And this view was from an angle where he was at. And then somebody stood up and said, what about all these shootings that are going on in your hoods, your communities, gang violence, right? Because that's what Charlie Kirk has talked about. Definitely has talked about this stuff. This college student, gentleman, if it could be a girl pretending to be a boy, because that's what's going on in your universities, hence Marxism. Actually, this was done. A lot of what we're seeing done here was done by the Bolsheviks in the Russian Revolution. This is how you disorganize and take away everybody's foundation of what they see it as. When you start looking at everything that happened, you start seeing that we are at the highest divorce rate in history. The nuclear family's been aced for decades through this woke ideology, and it was really pushed by one political group, right? I'm not saying the other was correct, because these two work in harmony like a yin and a yang, polarization, politics, one side versus another side, two parties. Yeah, do we really need two parties to govern us? Party is something you celebrate when you are going to a party or a birthday party, hence somebody's party, maybe some success, getting a new job, whatever a party may be for somebody, and you're telling me the two political parties are parties. That should be a sign that there's hijinks going on, plus all the other information. But when you start looking at it, one side pushed one agenda, the other side pushes another agenda. It's kind of like breathe in one side, breathe out another side. And that's really what politics is between the left and the right. So really, when you look at this, he was pushing more a Christian, definitely a traditional Christian, value-centered situation of, and some of it was right. I mean, I watched a couple of his videos, and I would see him really with the transgenders in 37 million gender programming BS. And it feels like when you're one side and you really show something on the other side, that it can be adapted as being the truth. And I've said many times here, this is really, somebody can tell you the truth, don't mean they're not working against you in the long run. Hence, I mean, the medical field is really telling you, if you go to Instagram, I'm telling you, go to Instagram, you're going to see the medical field's telling you everything that the medical fields did to you since the 1915 board meeting when Rockefeller hijacked modern medicine. And they're telling you everything that caused everything, and how since 1915, all these new diseases are only 115 to 110 years old, a bunch of them, that were not around before that when we deal with plant-based medicine, because the medicines, causation is there. I'll just leave it at that. But anyways, so I'm going off the cuff today because when I really needed time to think about it, I didn't jump on it right away. I mentioned it in my last video, but that was a planned video about the demiurge and through the system of Molech, and how that system of Molech really has never went away. It just adapted to modernization, where we will give you bad food to your children, to yourself. We'll give you bad medicine that creates more disease or causes autism. I think here in a week or so, we're supposed to get all the paperwork, quote, quote, unquote, from one side that told us we're going to get the Epstein files too, right? And I ain't seen it. So, and if you say, oh, any of you coming with leftist or right leans, this is not the channel for you, because we're all exposed that neither side is really different, that they're all actors playing a part called the whole world's a stage. So when you go to this one angle I seen, and I seen it on somebody's channel who was Sanchez, Brother Sanchez, shout out to him, because he really, when we got into it there and I listened to it, it made me think of things of the past and that I've known, and it made sense. So the kid said, what about all the mass shootings that we're getting everywhere? And as soon as he said, what about the gang violence in the inner cities? Pop, you hear the gun go off. And I'm like, he gets shot when if you can find this, look it up. Was not able to find the video. I did look it up, and maybe I should look it up a little bit more here and add this, but I'll think about it. But this is what happened was, as soon as he said, what about the inner city? Because, Trump's going in, they're sending the National Guard to all the inner cities. And let's not fake the funk. The inner cities are horrible. Anybody that tries to justify it through race and all that, you're putz. There's definitely a problem there with gang violence and people losing their lives. There mass killing of within the inner city, which does go back to the music, gang violence, and definitely with rap, with the gangster rap. Because I'm older. I remember the early rap was about fight the powers that be. It was like a unity, UNTI, was it UNITY? But in the 90s, it transformed to gang hood, kill the police. And then you've seen the gang mentality, and I also know the story that goes with that. So I'm not making it look at it's the demon and the right's right. There's a reason why the inner city has these things going on. It's not because they're so bad, because how do they have military weapons there unless it came from somebody who can get military weapons? Because believe me, they don't have the inner connection to it, except it's being done illegally to be brought to the gangsters and people causing these problems from somebody above that has access to military type weapons. So I'll leave it at that. So this is not picking a side or picking on nobody, but telling the truth. And if the truth rubs against your emotions and stuff, it does, because even us who come from a Caucasian background have always been told how our ancestors were racist and slave owners. And we accepted it, and we know there's a lot of bad out of that, and a lot of not good, and a lot of definitely bad treatment. And believe me, I'm not against that. I mean, I have a lot of people of color that I'm actually half Mexican, half white, and Native American, but also have a lot of connection to a lot of people that call themselves black, because black and white is legal terms. Nobody's a crayon. Nobody's a crayon. So, hence. And I will be getting into this video in a minute. Hence, so what I looked at, he got shot as soon as this gentleman stood up and said, what about, right? What about random shootings that's going on at schools and this. And as soon as Charlie Kirk said and didn't answer the question, went right to what about the hood? What about the inner city? You can hear the gun go off, and then he drops. And then I started looking at this. And then I started looking at this almost like it was too perfect to be true. Like the kid standing up, or the young man standing up, or the young pretend man. I think he was a man. You never know at these universities these days. Stands up and says, asks them the question about the shootings and, the mass shootings at schools done by usually Caucasians, right? And even the latest one before this happened was transgender, and the transgender said, "Don't villainize us," right? All this stuff, all this news, all this stuff to get us from thinking with all this stuff flying at us at once, to keep us separated from our common sense and to pick sides and to flow with whatever they present to you as their variety of entertainment, because that's what they are. A lot of stuff staged. And I'm not saying, I do believe there's a staging to this, whether he was killed or that's a deeper look, which I don't doubt. Sanchez talked about it and went in a deeper place that we can even do. But the theory that's coming from this, that was spoken even 7-8 months ago when we talked about the Olympics and did the video, the theory of Christian Reich, R-E-I-C-H, not Christian Reich. Those are totally different. But definitely them stemming from that, getting tired of this, would also mostly be from the right and Christian, and definitely Christian. So that happened, and I started looking at it. The kid stands up, asks the question, and it happens. Was this a joint effort with the kid? And then what about, and then I know Sanchez, and then really deep, I was doing something, so I didn't get to really deep dive like I wanted to. Actually, they were looking at some of the people around, and if they were showing signs like to a shooter because we got to understand, we live in a symbol. When you don't understand that this is if you can't read symbology, you don't know anything. And I'm being asked. All your businesses are nothing but symbols. If you can't read them symbols, you don't know that you're being prepped. And all the symbols, a bunch of them, like I said earlier, hijacked to me not what they originally mean by the people who created them in ancient long ago. But when you grab it, hints, and you go, what's that mean? Look at the Nazi symbol. The Nazi symbol is not a new symbol. It's a very ancient symbol that meant a unity and a oneness of person waking up and being able to balance the right and left, because that's the symbol is, right? One like this, that's a symbol meaning your right and left hemisphere of your brain as an individual has your higher consciousness connected to your lower human. Heaven and earth are one. That's what really the symbol would mean. The Nazis tilted a little bit to the left, if you look at it, not centered like the symbol is originally did. Why I'm saying this is this connects to all symbology when it's hijacked. So what they were doing was looking at who's the people around, whose people may be giving sign to the shooter, like, you do it, time's now, get ready. And was it connected to the man asking the question, or the person asking the question, what about this random shooters from, that are happening in schools, just people going and shooting? And then as soon as he says, he didn't answer the question directly. His answer was, what about the violence in the inner city or the hood? And that's when you hear the gunshot, and he's in the appeared assassination of one Charlie Kirk, only 31 years old. So what I was looking at was how far they go, what we don't know, and some of the things and theories that I had made me start knowing I had to get centered before I reacted. If I reacted when this happened, I would probably I would definitely have some emotional aspect to it that I wanted to be able to set, resonate, get everything, and come from just a heart-centered place, but it's off the cuff. Like I said, with one video. So when I started looking at this, and I started, because we're going to apply what's going on also in Europe. And if you don't know, you should find out. but you have to know where to look. Rumble, some YouTube, some Instagram. You'll find out that what's happening in there, you think it's bad here, it's double for your trouble, because the Europeans or the nationals, or what you would call maybe even native Europeans, Caucasian folk, are having their rights stripped away. And when they speak about the immigration and the immigrants there breaking law and actually murdering and raping people, women, and doing obscene acts, pushing their laws, the Sharia law, some getting leadership position like they have here. Some have got leadership position in East Coast. They always, when this comes, it's always the Democratic Party associates with which people can easily get pissed at, unless you don't have common sense and you just see the Democratic Party that we used to look at as our grandparents, and I'm talking my grandparents, and I'm 60, and our parents is not the same party. This is so far left that it's freaking communism. But we really have a mixture of communism, because corporations are the ones through COVID really made their stand, made their money, as the mom and pop shops went down and personal business owners lost businesses. And you had Amazon, you had Walmart, you had all these companies really prosper. Tesla prosper at this time, while many, and we have the biggest hedging of funds and the biggest cash grab by the ultra rich and the ultra elite, and taking it and getting rich and staying with it, right? That's what actually happened with the vid. And then we've noticed the world change. Everything since then has really gone nutso. And the truth be told, there's a bunch of people, I just don't get it, but cognitive dissonance is real, folks. Because I seen and listen to people, and I go and I drive around, and I even had a checkup at my doctor that's through my insurance, which is Kaiser Permanente. Let me say something about this etymology of this name. Kaiser means king. It's a German word for king or chief or ruler. Permanente means permanent. So really what Kaiser Permanente's name is, permanent king. Yeah. Permanent king. When you start decoding this, you can see it's a hijinks of fascism. This is the other part where you call the right or Trump into fascism, right? Big business running government is what the definition of fascism is, where the corporations become the government. True. And it's not denying it. It's the far, far right. The literal people in the right wanted, and them who left the left went right. A lot of them, and a lot of them were black males. Hate the word black and white because it's so freaking hijinks. Did you know the word black and white really is actually law words? There's when you deal with people, the words have nothing to do with skin color and tone. They have nothing to do in law. Nothing. One means they can't have access to inheritance, and one means you're free, and it has nothing to do with skin color. But they adopted as that with their hijinks in maritime law, which is a whole different video, but we can add that in there. I did some maritime law on a recent video too, because I really have not deep dived into it. I should do a video with it and really break down and use Jordan Maxwell, because he breaks it down really well. Religion, politics, and the banking system with the Canaanites, Phoenicians, who are the small hats, or the black small hats, if we can be precise without saying the word. So they're really good at hiding that and using them to hide that, right? But when you looked at it, that's what it would be. And the other side just been Marxism. The whole Marxism, and Karl Marx's book called Morals and Dogma tells you their plans that they would implement with college universities, and they would implement. He told the truth. Karl, when you go read, I've read Morals and Dogma. It tells you the plans. And guess what? The plans happened. Up into where we're heading to World War III was one of their plans, to bring their version into a Luciferian reality into play of the elites and their fake. Let me tell you that their fake righteousness. And actually, that's why when you go in the book of Revelations, it says, them that call themselves but lie. And then it turns around and calls them, through the religious aspect, Catholicism, the whore of Babylon, because it's the foundation of the hijacking of Christianity, because that's what they did. Because anybody who brought real Christianity, hence Gnosticism, come on now, they killed, murdered. We even had the video showing, I had the video showing you everything they did and how they killed 500,000 Cathars and burned a bunch of books, and even talked to a Christian the other day trying to kind of massage his brain to maybe he'd get a flow and see that every book that you believe in this canonized version was ordained by this organization who, when you understand it, are not what they say they are. They're the political families of the Roman political powers of the Russian powers. Hence, right? And this is one thing we got to understand is the foundation of the United States through the Catholic Church, the political movement, which is a fake which is a total political movement and not a righteousness religious movement, frauded into a religious movement. The banking system, the Canaanites and system, right? Black hats. Then there's three parts to this triangle of madness. Excuse the pun on the group in AEW tag team women's group of three, the triangle of madness, the trinity of madness, we'll call it, is a military aspect, which is and has been the United States of America, is the intelligence military base of the three system part of Catholic, appears to be spiritual, but really political. Then the banking system, the Canaanite, Phoenicianite manipulation of the banking system with the ones who will control it or protect it, the United States of America, who was sanctioned to be, through this process, the military complex. And this is not new, because you're finding out things now. This has been going on since the conception, maybe 1871, when it was officially done and finished by 1913. And it was even in the papers then. It was. There's paper articles that said the United States was sold to a corporation of European investors, bankers. When you see who the investors are, it said it. It was right there. It's not new. But we're in a place now when you start you're breaking the foundation. But here's what they did with the divide and conquer, which is an old system. They have been able, through ideology, brainwashing, and everything connected to it, MK Ultra. Maybe you weren't taking personally MK Ultra, but if you have a TV and you've been indoctrinated into their school systems and all their systems, you've been MK Ultra, because you're living and operating on a belief system that doesn't hold truth, because it's not about believing, it's about knowing. I don't believe 2 + 2 is 4. I know 2 + 2 is 4. Having the experiences, but they've got you on the belief train. And then if something goes against your belief train, now there is no moral compass. Hence, even if it was a stage event, real event, there's people with a guy being shot on TV, an assassination for everybody to see, even to the tilt, with different angles. See that people are dancing on his grave, if you want to call that. So people are willing to take a belief system and really wish death on somebody else. And this is definitely a breakdown morally, but when you create a divide and conquer and you're able to get it this is a low frequency where they can go, we got all the sheep fighting within, and us sheep shepherds, the system, we can implement anything we want. We can just keep dividing them and even get them to war and kill themselves. We're making them crabs in a bucket. They will pull others and kill others down and celebrate them to elevate their belief systems, not even elevate their pocketbook, not even elevate their anything that's of substance to their soul, anything of substance to even their income. They will celebrate their belief systems. This is low hanging fruit, really, but people are caught up doing it and don't realize the dumbing down has been the plan of them to dummy down the people. Dummies, just test crash course dummies. Like when they test the car and they put the crash dummies in it, they feel you're the crash dummies and everything we tried. They seen that we easily accepted this cooties in 2010. They said, stay in your house and not go out. And people obeyed. And they go, God darn, these people, everything we work plan because these people obey everything we say. They don't have any type of critical thinking. They don't. And when you're asleep, you won't. You'll have belief systems. And hence, not trying to brag on myself, but I got woken up in 93. So what happened? When 9/11 hit, I didn't go, God damn the Muslims over there in the Middle East. And this one guy, they gave us the guy that maybe did all this and was behind all this as being a culprit and the bad guy, right? I said, what are the mofos, to myself, because my coworkers I couldn't talk to about it. I said to myself, what are the mofos doing now? What are they up to? Because I don't buy any of the bullshit. So hence, we get to 219, 220. Do you think I believed it? Hell no. No. I said, what are these clowns up to now? What are these bitches up to now? Because I have no respect because I know what they are. I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat, dog shit's dog shit. That's why when people talk to me and I come with that, they go, gotta watch that. The people are going to say, and it's not being racist. Everybody's on a believable playing field. If you're an asshole and you're white, you're an asshole. If you're an asshole and you're black, you're an asshole. If you're blue and you're an asshole, you're an asshole. If you're green and you're an asshole, you're an asshole. There's no favoritism in that. Facts are facts. And they don't give a shit about your belief systems or your feelings. And this is really even your spiritual knowledge when you really look at what's going on here. They're really bombarding with stuff. They got us ready for an alien invasion. I don't believe in aliens in outer space. It's interdimensional. These things have been interdimensional. They've been here a long time. Somebody coming through space, I don't buy that at all. And they're prepping you, and a bunch of folks are in their belief systems are going to go, oh my God, and give up their rights. Watch out. The giving up of rights by certain people, they'll give it away when they think they tell you need to give up your guns, because this is really also connected to that. Because one side is going to be, see, you need to, especially the leftists, you need to give up your rights. See what rights, see what guns do. And we're like, I don't know any time a gun's killed anybody. Do you? Come on, common sense here, meaning the programming's out. It has nothing to do with a gun or a weapon. It's the one, they don't fire themselves. People use the weapon. That means the problemo is the people. But psyops are there. When you look into gematria, the date that Charlie Kirk died, which is the 10th, today's what, the 14th. There was also an hour later a shooting, I believe, in Colorado of children, backing it up, going right henceforth. They think they're slick until you see their game. And for me, they're not slick, but I also have to go in decode mode and not go into my emotions. Hence, I'm going to talk about, I said earlier, Europe. Europeans doing what I do now, saying right now, which I'm not the only one. I got a freaking small channel compared to the ones with bigger channels, saying what I'm saying now. Guess what happens with them? They get arrested. There's many of them from there who have got arrested for speaking their mind and speaking truth and decoding stuff and telling the truth that the Europeans are being tossed in jail, and the border crossers, right, the ones who came in illegally, do what they want, commit crimes and get released. And even people are saying they're raping young girls and they don't take them to jail and keep them. They'll release them, while the one who said that this guy raped, or this guy's raped this young girl, teenage girls, they stay in jail for a while. And this is happening in Europe. Big time, big time, big time. So what it's creating in Europe, and it's coming here, I'd see this as the catalyst. What we've seen is the catalyst for what I'm talking about. And I had mentioned it way back in the early part of the year, did a video, go watch some of my videos. I went into the Olympics and some of the scriptures of the book of Revelations with them that with swords and Apollyon and all that story. Apollyon, which is a Greek story about the doctor of medicine, right? Medicine, and also what? Poison. Because within the shot, he would take an arrow, put the poison on it, and shoot it, because he was a warrior doctor, and shoot the poisonous arrow into somebody. And we correlated it here as the jabby, jabby, jooby, jooby, jab. Because if you don't know, if you're still illogical and don't use your common sense and still don't recognize that just because you don't agree with the side don't mean at times they told you the truth. And the only truth right now I'm seeing too much by the left is but there's a bunch of people on the right who are speaking up against MAGA saying, hey, what's happening in Palestine is no way righteous. It's what it is. And they're speaking up. So they're kind of speaking up, but you'll never see the left speak up against the left. I'll give them that, but not that they know fully truth, the one speaking up. They got to watch it, because Charlie Kirk is one that started speaking up against this. He started speaking up against everything. Israel, is it real? He started speaking up. So is Candace Owens. Candace Owens got threatened for some of the things she's speaking up against. Do I think she could still be a psyop? Oh, yeah. I think it could be. I'm not surprised that any of these are psyops. That they are, because I know that money and power runs deep. And when you sign a contract, you're contracted. And you'll get compensated, but you can also be disposed once you're compensated. And if you start free thinking a little bit and saying things that might go against that, maybe you could ace, but maybe it was not necessarily it was. That goes into a deeper sense of who these are in control of the reality. And we've talked about it a little bit. I mentioned it a little bit on my thoughts about that. I have mentioned it. So what has happened? Scotland, Ireland, English. There's a group of Christian. I did a Irish and Scottish right now. Irish, Scottish, which I have both in me. It's part of my bloodline. Have created a Christian Reich to go against the Muslims. And they started blowing up 5D towers there. And they went up to these Christian or these Muslims that were there in their country, creating havoc, putting their flags up everywhere. This is also what's happening in Britain and in parts of Europe. They put up their flags of their countries, or Muslim flags, or their country's flags. When the British put up the Britain flag, the government made them take it down. Hijinks is going there. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you hear what I'm saying? Do you hear? Do you see? This is definitely feeling what I'm trying to get to, the point I'm going to get to build what I'm seeing. And it goes with the video 6-7 months ago with the Christian Reich. And Charlie Kirk, to me, is the kickoff. It is definitely the opening of the door. And this is not just white Christians or white people. A lot of those who had left the left that are black are definitely, I've seen a video from a little boy at 9-10 just going off on the people making TikToks and stuff, and how lacking in respect. And it was a little black boy, probably 9, 10, 11. And he went in very eloquently how it's wrong, how you lack what you lack. I mean, he really went in on them celebrating this, and how he looked at Charlie Kirk as a Christian man who was just showing his values, and nobody deserved to die for free speech, because this is also the statement. If you speak out with free speech, we can take your life. This is really what they're saying. The very, very rights you have that supposedly separated America from other places. Free speech, which we seen danced on during COVID, when many of us could not talk without getting our page blocked on Facebook and stuff like that. And and all the social medias who are blocking anybody speaking up of the hijinks. One more time, speaking up of the hijinks going on, taking away our rights away, which we see was the left. If you have any common sense, was the left. And that's why people in this, really a lot of people just they were just boiling of hating the left, right? I know, I felt it. But I also knew that both sides were really no different, because I knew this since 1988. And actually probably knew it my whole life and felt it. But this is when I started looking at things and got information by reading a book given to me by a Jew gentleman who was a non-practicing Jew gentleman. And it was called Don't Dare Call It Conspiracy is the name of the book. And I read it in 88. It lined up the Trilateral Commission. It lined up the United Nations, all what they were doing, and how the left and right went back and forth and played volleyball like a court or like a tennis court. Because notice in tennis, you play on courts, right? And the key thing when you play tennis, you have to have this thing you hold. It's a racket. Notice you go to court, and it's the same thing. They volleyball, two attorneys to volleyball for both sides. You know why they call it? Because it's a racket. It's a water-based maritime law racket, not based on land law. But anyways, just another tidbit of what the system we live in by debunking it. That's why when you take the spiritual or the physical Jesus story or never lived, it's a story. The metaphysical story was woe unto the judges, lawyers, and tax collectors. Everybody he said woe unto was telling you these are the problems with this reality, how it's hijinks. And then first he said Sadducees, Pharisees. If he goes into the fact that the Sadducees, Pharisees, you guys are all not part of me. You guys are dead men's walking, dead men's bones. You block people from entering the kingdom, hence you can't enter in yourself because you're fraud. And you worship, and if you would have known me, if you really known the Father, you would have known me, he said in the thing. And he said, because if you don't really known the Father, you would have known me. And since you don't know me, you're of your father, the devil. Darn it. I don't know if you guys see this popped up. You're of your father, the devil. Stop there. This is telling you we've been warned about this, but unless you look at it different, because people look at the scripture and say, that's what he said, but don't realize he's telling you about a system that's fraudulent that was around then and is around now. It hasn't changed. The religious system's connected to all this maritime law, into all this. So what I'm saying is the Christian Reich is what's coming out of this. The Christian Reich in Europe right now, definitely in Ireland, Scotland, and some other British have now formed. They're forming. And they have went in and even went to the Muslims saying, this is our country. You pull your bullshit, you'll deal with us. But since our police won't back us, we ain't playing with you. They did this. Your flags, get your ass home. This is Christianity. This is what stuff they're coming at them. And the Christian Reich has started in Europe. It's just getting kicked. To me, this Charlie Kirk sign this is when we start seeing it here. It's like the foundation of it is being brought down because they know that we're sheeple, and majority of the collective are sheeple and sleepy. Powerful, but when you're powerful, but you're asleep to your power, you really can't help the situation collectively because you're a dumb sheep. And I don't mean that to get you mad, just telling you how their observation is and how they attack the observation, which is true. Because what you created more division between a made-up left and a made-up right, which is really, and they're all related to each other. I just did a video showing you by the 15-year-old girl. At the time, she was an 11-year-old girl that did her 6th grade assignment. She elected to look up every president's bloodline and found out that all the presidents are related except one, to a king from in England, in Europe. Meaning, and when this came out, still people go, oh, that's a nice thing. And I'm like, Sleepyville. Because when I first seen it a few years ago, I was like, this means blue bloods never went away. These are all blue bloods families that are presidents. It's the same freaking system they're implementing, just with a different juice. They combined Western Europe with going towards Eastern Europe, but going towards Rome, which is still Western Europe, and going into that area of the Middle East and using the concepts from the Canaanites, Phoenicians, Judaism, and using these Arabic or this Abrahamic religion foundations who all hate each other. The Jews think the Christians are stupid. The Christians think the Jews are the chosen people, even though they don't believe in the one they say, Jesus. And the Muslims don't hate the Jews. They don't believe in the Christians, do believe that Jesus was a little person, but a prophet. And the Jews say he's not the Messiah. They're from the same freaking tree, but they're different branches. But the foundation of what they are is the same. Havoc, blood sacrifices, murders, and conquering. And for this one here, Christianity, right? We'll put that one, Roman version of it, not Gnostic at all. Gnostic runs circles around this trash. This is programming at its best or at its worst. So the people now are seeing the Muslims. That's not so much here yet, but we're starting to see it in the East Coast spring up with mayors that are Muslims that have said some outrageous stuff. One of the mayors says, we're just going to tax all the white people. And it's like, which was hijinks. When I heard it, I was like, wow. They're going to want to bring Sharia law in. I said, wow. This guy won, and this is what he says. Why? I'll show you a little secret. Muslims don't believe in taxes because they know they teach and always taught taxations of the freaking devil. Did you know that? That taxations of the devil. So when I have this so-called Muslim mayor spouting this off, I'm like, in your religious beliefs, hypocrite, obviously you're fraud. You don't believe in taxes because you think it's evil, which I agree in that. Because when you know a little bit about Roman Catholic history, because the Roman Catholics got in charge so they could fight the Muslims and control the world and control the Middle East, because you control the flow of traffic of goods. It's really about money and power, because this is going on way before Europe was involved. This goes to the Canaanites and the Phoenicians and the trafficking of humans back then. Because if you don't know, you're going to hear it here first. For all you people, the Muslims had actually made Caucasians human trafficking, slaves for 700 years, but they don't talk about that. They don't talk about that. And I'm not saying to talk about it, to write it so I can play the victim. Hell no. It's not, playing the victim's a hard way to go because your frequency's lowered and you will not have any kind of pull of positivity. The thing you'll pull to yourself as you continue to play the victim, and the left knows this. That's why they push this doctrine on the leftist side. And those who are indoctrinated with it, to continue to play the victim, there has to be another person pop up or another energy pop up. And you have to have a perpetrator when you play the victim, because you create the reality of duality. And that automatic, it's nature that it goes with it. So here we are. So the Muslims are over there breaking crimes and getting away with it. And the police are just like, da, 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 like Laurel and Hardy, give them a badge. Or the Bowery Boys, I'm really going, or how about Car 54, where you don't really arrest anybody and they get away with it, and you just kind of like, okay, this is what's happening there. So now the people are rallying together. And you know what I know? Because I've seen some of the stuff going. I got into not a group. I did read a chat on YouTube, and I got in the comments of the Europeans, and I listened to what they were saying. They were saying we're done. We should have kept gun rights. That's one of the things they say. Our government is gone. Europe is gone. This is the words of Europeans. We need to rally together to stop the bullshit. Our government is backing them up. Our government's as corrupt as hell. And if you look at some of the things and see what's happening in the streets of Europe, it's not like here. They're over here protesting against freaking ICE in these cities. That's not everybody. Everybody there's protesting about the control of the government and bringing into slavery, while we're fighting a left and right war, which is bullshit. Because the left and right are totally together, and it's even political science, because it takes the yin and the yang in energy is what runs this thing. It's the battery, feminine and masculine, yin and yang, runs the whole thing. the left and the right, Crips and, you can call them Crips and Bloods. You still believing in the Crips and Bloods politically? Because that's what it is, but they're really in harmonization together. They really know what they're doing. Like I said, the girl did the video and seen all presidents, whether they're Democrats or Republicans, were all related. The game's been ran on the people. We, the people, were the game's ran on. Both sides are corrupt, and the ones we see are really actors. Why? The president was on a TV show where he told them they were fired. Am I wrong or am I right? I mean, this is common sense. He was on a TV show. What's the name of it? The whatchamacallit, almost like Making a Master. I forget the word. And he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Wrestling Hall of Fame. World Wrestling Entertainment Hall of Fame, and Donald Trump is him. But just not him. After the election, when we seen the switch from the back to the presidency, if you remember Joe Biden, he could not think, he could not walk, he could not talk, right? He was bumbling and stumbling. And so was his vice president. She could not say a sentence or rub 3 nickels together to tell you it's 15 cents. This is the game and stupidity that they were really playing that really turned off people to have them run to the other side, because we're just looking for common sense. We want to understand there's only 2 genders. We don't want men pretending to be women with skirts on, going to the school and sitting little Joey on his lap while he's got a skirt and netted stockings while his balls and penis are hanging out. We were saying this is what the left was pushing, and it was. But it's a plan. This is what they were pushing. And then so people just wanting common sense, seeing stupidity, would leave the other side. And so when you see this, not knowing this, why they were easy prey to get a lot of people to go, because it ends up being common sense. But really, the day I looked at it and the day I seen it, when I seen the 3, when I seen Facebook clown, Bezos, and Musk there, I go, this is a billionaire's boys club. Go read the book, go watch the movie. You'll understand this is a club. This is what George Carlin was talking about when he says it's a club and you're not in it and we're not in their club. But they do use our battery because they know our energy's pure. Their energy, they don't got it. I'm going to tell you what I believe. I believe a lot of these leaders that we see and the ones we don't see are actually were able to cheat death reincarnation professionals in Egypt with technology, because this technology is not new. And if you are, you still sleep. If you believe it's new, you sleep, and this ain't the place for you because you really need to wake up. But if you're tittering and you want to go to the next level, you need to listen. That they were able to hijack death. They were able to change, and even from the past, and they just keep reincarnating in power in their own body, and the powers that be or the powers that were, to stay in power, to keep the game going, because they're stuck in this loop of life here, and they've made a choice. The ones you see from music to the lower levels are being recruited, and they are not those bloodlines. They're recruited by the contracts they sign. Hence, music, movies, athletes, and all these, a lot of them are Manchurian candidates and all this that we see. And they keep this reality when you wake up is not what you think it is. And your religions gave you heaven and hell, and that's not what it is. I'm going to tell you, when you wake up, you understand heaven is not a place. It's a mindset. Hell is not a place, and it's a mindset. And that's why the kingdom of God is within you. And anybody worth their salt and spiritual past, even though maybe the hints where they came from was indoctrination, they would tell you there's bits and truths in the corn husk you can find in the canonized version. Like the kingdom of God is within you. Jesus even whips their ass with it, gets the belt out and says, why do you punks still keep looking outside yourself? Really, that's what he's saying. And the real, if you want to take it to the street, why do you keep looking outside yourself for something I keep telling you is not there, you dummy, you vintage dummy. I keep telling you that you keep going, looking over there and just travel over here and look there. He said, dummies, I keep telling you the kingdom of God's within you, and that's where the whole thing begins and ends, and that's where your growth is, but you keep looking outside yourself. In Hinduism, Buddha said that. It's within you. What was the quote in Buddhism? That you keep looking outside yourself for something that's only within yourself. Hence, Hinduism, the people wandered so far out themselves they didn't know the way back, wandering outside and thinking external gods, external things, and that's their power, when really, he says, they wander so far outside themselves, because this is where it was, inside themselves, they got lost and forgot. Hence, we got a lot of people here, once they wake up and live this life and then get indoctrinated, starts with your parents. Your parents are in the belief system too, your parents and grandparents and great-grandparents. That's why we need grace, because they didn't know. It's not that they were stupid and did it maliciously. They didn't know. Your grandparents did not know. Your great-parents did not know. They were programmed. This is a program reality. You can be programmed. If you don't program yourself and wake up and get true information, you're connected to the cosmos and the all. You don't need anything else besides that. Anything outside of that, they're giving you dog shit. And that's a fact. I'm just going to say it the way it is. Especially in these religions, these exoteric Christianity, and these 65,000 religions, and they all in dogmas in what is it called, denominations, and they don't fellowship with one another, because there's a First Baptist Church, Second Baptist Church, the Third Baptist Church, and you'll even see by the numbers which ones are black and white. And guess what they don't do? They don't correspond with each other, because there's division. And then the Catholics don't fellowship with the Baptists because they have different doctrines, but supposed to have the same God, but all different. It's trash. Wakey, chicken bakey. And if you sleep, I'm sorry, you just asleep. Indoctrinated dogma. That's what exoteric is. But the truth of it is, they always were telling you, you are connected within. Your access is within. Your waking up is within. You are connected to the all within. You are within. And even the New Testament scriptures talking about Jesus Christ is coming in his glory. It says he's coming in the saints, meaning it's coming within the people. When the people wake up, they are embodying the Christ. Because Christ isn't necessarily a person. It's a movement of everybody has Christ. Christ means oil. That's why, hence they even called it Crisco. Crisco's hinging on the name Christ in the Greek. Christos. Krishna means Christos in the Greek. Christ means Christos in the Greek. It's the same thing. But the indoctrination, especially of us in the West Christianity, is so... Ooh. I'm off the cuff today, just going into it all. But I'm going back to my thought right now. So what's happening there? And I'm going to share the video here. We're about the hour mark. I had no regulation what time limit I'd be here. So they're creating a Christian Reich. They're going after the Muslims. We don't really see it as Muslims. We're looking more in, I know West Coast is more like people crossing from Mexico and even Central America. But here's the thing, when you open the border, think about this. I'll show you how much Hollywood this is. One opens the border, one closes the border. Hollywood. Story. It's a good storyline. Makes a good movie. Whole world's a stage. Makes a good movie. Somebody opens something. Think about it. They opened something that nobody ever opened. That's how retarded, to me, when you look at it. The left played like they were the Three Stooges, but they had two that were more dense than the Three Stooges. Kamala and Sloppy Joe. But Trump comes as the savior. But is he really the savior? No, he's not the savior, because neither one. They're all playing the script. I just told you he's part of The Apprentice, Hollywood, and part of the WWE Hollywood. And what I was going to say about Joe, after that election when they lost, it was over, Joe, 2 weeks later, was over here in LA, Hollywood, with his manager or his agent to become an actor and maybe get in movie series. This is a guy who acted like he didn't know how to walk down steps, but he's going to the Actors Guild with his agent to become an actor, get his whatever they need to get, a license, whatever goes with becoming an actor and legality. And he can't remember walking down a freaking stairs or a sentence, but he's going to go remember scripts. Hijinks. That's hijinks. You don't go remember scripts, but you can't know how to remember walking down stairs, and all you're going to sloppy Joe. But I heard times when, and definitely when you look at different versions of him, that don't look like the guy. This starts to look like maybe this is something else going on here that's been going on a long time. And we, the people, don't know this is not new stuff. Not new. They've been telling us in movies. They've been telling us in all this stuff. They've been telling us. So I'm just telling you the background. Now going to what happened here. I'm going to share this video. It's only 5 minutes. It's only 5 minutes. It's archaics. It's an archaic short video where he's going to talk about what I just mentioned. All right, he's going to talk only about 5 minutes, 3 seconds. Wait, why is it not playing? Can you guys hear it? Where's the volume? Volume. Why can't I hear it? Why am I not hearing him? Oh boy, they'll hijinks you. If you let them, they will hijinks you. Can you guys hear this? I can't hear that. Bear. Good. Okay, let's see. No. Sorry. I'm going to look on this video and see where I can find volume because I don't hear him. Oh, let's see if it's here. Volume is up all the way. I cannot hear the video. Can you guys? I've never had this happen to me. Isn't this interesting that I've never heard this? Wow. Unbelievable. I definitely probably lost my background. Not surprised. Chat. Hi. I've never had a video I couldn't hear. This is very interesting. Let me do this back here, and I will stop it and try it again. You guys can hear me. Because definitely I couldn't hear the video, and that has never happened. Never happened. I find it quite funny that it didn't happen. If you're there, I just put a comment. If you guys could hear the video, put a yes or a 1 if you could hear it, a 2 if you didn't. I couldn't hear the video when I was trying to do it. So I'm going to share one more time and put this video on, which when I did it, I could hear it from the beginning. This is archaics. I cannot hear it. Unbelievable that I cannot hear this video. All right. I get let me go back here in the chat. Can you hear the video if you're who's ever on? They're not on no more. So wow. Wow, wow, wow. Unbelievable that I could not hear this video. Unbelievable that I could not hear this video. Unbelievable, but not surprising. Background went away. Unbelievable that I cannot hear this video. I'm going to look at it one more time. I'm going to try one more time. You guys can hear me, right? Let's also share the tab, okay? Unbelievable. Is there something that's blocking it here?
What? Of the Christian right. And I also said in my predictions videos,
right. There we go.
And this is what we're seeing. Over
Okay, I fixed it. It was my fault. We're going to go back in. You'll be able to hear the video. It was my bad. I just wanted to make sure. I was starting to wonder if they were blocking me, because I would not be surprised. But here we go. It's only 5 minutes. This is kind of going to what I'm talking about.
3 years ago, I was telling my own community, hey, y'all watch on the Christian right. And this is what we're seeing. Over 3 years ago, I was telling my own community, hey, y'all watch out. You're going to start seeing signs of major celebrities that you would have never predicted. Talking heads, pundits, politicians. You're going to see a lot of people that you would have never expected suddenly convert to Christianity and start pushing it. I said this 3 years ago. I said this is the rise of the Christian right. And I also said in my predictions videos that at the same time, you're going to see the controlled collapse of the leftist Democratic Party. And the way they're going to do this is to widely publish for the whole world all the absolute stupid, ridiculous, woke, hypocritical shit that they're doing. And that's exactly what's been happening. My predictions nailed it. It's become so prevalent in daily media that most people don't even know that the world was a very different place 3.5 years ago when I released these predictions videos. Totally different place, but it's all come to pass. Just like the knife stabbings, all these things, every bit of it has come to pass because this is a script. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a seer. I have no paranormal abilities. All I'm using is arithmetic and calendars and the events that are attached to individual years. And I'm showing the intrinsic patterning of events of the past and the future, and I'm nailing these predictions because it's a program. The book of Revelation is not prophecy. It is programming. He starts reaching through the gate and he's telling Dad, you're a demon. You're a sinner. He starts mumbling stuff about a serpent, 40 days and 40 nights. And he that is evil is going to get what he's got coming to him. And man, it's just going on. And the whole time I'm watching this scene, I'm like, wow, man, this is everything I'm telling people about the Christian Reich. Yeah, man. I'm not talking about good old hearted Christians, man. I was one of them for many, many, many years. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the Christian right, the same type of mindset of people who think they are allied to God, who can stand there with their own sons and daughters and listen to somebody screaming high pitch as they burn alive at a stake at a Catholic mass. Yeah, that's Christian right. The same people that were doing that during the burning times are existing right now in these mega churches. I talk about it all the time. But what I fear is that a lot of people who are still buying into that bullshit, a lot of people are going to find themselves with their backs against the wall, now supporting a movement that emerges out of that desperation when they realize things aren't going the way we wanted and the way we predicted and the way we were told and the cue drops. None of that's happening. However, I'm a Christian. So I see this developing over here, and I'm gonna get on board with that. And then I'm gonna claim, and now they're gonna start claiming these events are justification. That's what we knew we were heading toward this all along. Guys, many of you have made the mistake of thinking that I've been saying Christian right as if it is an opposite of left. That is not what's been coming out of my mouth. I have been warning you for 3 years about the rise of the Christian Reich, not right. Big difference. Christian Reich. The Christian Reich is going to be unlike anything that we have in living memory. I'm telling you guys, it will get dark. People will justify all kinds of hideous acts because they think they are allied to God. They are on God's side. They will quote Bible verses, all these old Bible verses that have been sitting there that people just kind of overlook. Oh, they'll be brought back to the table where incidents after incidents after incidents, the holy chosen people of God went in there and dashed babies' heads on stones. Yeah, it's in the Old Testament. I don't need to make that up. I got it in my Dark Scriptures playlist. I cite the verses. Yeah, Moses commanded his people because Yahweh commanded him to go in there and kill every man, woman, and child in some cities, go into other cities and kill every man, woman, child, and every livestock animal. See that nothing liveth. Yeah. Other places in the Old Testament, they're told to kill every single man, put every man 12 years old and older to the sword. Keep the 11-year-olds and under, and keep all the women and the daughters and sell them off as slaves.
What?
Ooh, glad I got that fixed. I wanted to play this. What he's saying to me is started in Europe. It has, because the Muslim push there is definitely there. We see a little bit on the East Coast here with some, like, I think there's two, at least one, maybe is it New York? One of the cities and states already have it as a mayor, I believe, or governor. Don't quote me, but there is, what I'm saying is true, with some leadership, and even talking about Sharia law and that stuff. And then from that, I see Charlie Kirk as like the pushing of the Christian Reich beginning here. I'm in full agreement. It makes sense, because who benefits off a Christian Reich against the Muslims? Reminds you what really the war between the Catholics and let's be honest, the Catholics and the Moors, the Muslims, was for power and for that area to control the ports and having power over the world. That's really what the Roman Catholic Church's foundation was. It's political. They used the spiritual to control the masses and indoctrination, while they told countries go and burn them and slave them all, kind of what he was reading with the Old Testament, which I did recently in showing you. The Old Testament has places where humans were sacrificed to Yahweh, the demiurge. This makes sense for what we're going, and that's why I'm really, when I do it, it's not desperation for me. I see and know what's coming, And spiritual folks, them awake, patty cake's got to be over. You really got to be about your spiritual business, that you're in a flow of knowing how to operate in the spirit and not be deceived, because there'll be some things that some really people can be deceived. Like he said, they bring a Christian Reich, and some people will be deceived and say, well, I got to go with it because my back's against the wall. My back's against the wall. I have nowhere to go but with them, and start doing the things to see when it's pushed against. But who benefits from a Christian Reich against the Muslims? One place that seems to be, we give their money and support their military and all that. Yeah, Jerusalem, Israel. Who's slaughtering Palestinians and mowing the lawn daily? It doesn't matter if they're women, children, I'm not surprised with everything I found out and know about it. I was talking to my son the other day, and he was like, what do you mean? Because I would use the term blackouts, the blackouts. Because if you say, there's one group of people that if you say anything bad about it, you're not really called a racist, even though it's implied. You're called an anti-Semitic. And I'm like, but aren't the people in Palestine Semitic too? So you're being anti-Semitic against your own Semitic? Yeah, take that hijinks over. That's hijinks. I'm not about it. Just be ready and be on it. But this is what I see with Charlie Kirk. And I also see some deeper things with these peoples or powers that be, of a transferring from back ages to here to stay in the powers. It's almost like I know some people who would say the reincarnation of certain people, like Natu has said on various times, said that Trump is King Cyrus, even created a coin with him on it. And I go, Cyrus helped them when they can't left Babylon. Because remember, the Talmud, as much as the Jewish Talmud, we're like, oh, the Jewish Talmud. And what's in it? Go read it, and you'll be shocked how you felt about it if you're not Jewish. You shouldn't be shocked, but because I've known this, but you'll go, oh, this is really what they are? Yeah. I don't know if you've ever read the story about 7-Eleven. They don't have it anymore, but 7-Eleven's, all its fast foods, junk foods, were on a shelf, and it was called Go Yum, like Go Yum, like Goyum, Go Yum. But the name of anybody who's not Jewish is called, in the Talmud, is Go Yum. And then there's this story called The Secret Connection of the Jews to 7-Eleven, which is a very interesting story with Go Yum and Goyim. But anyways, because symbols and language are definitely a game, and if you don't know it, you can be played very easily. But just be ready, be on your stuff. This is what I see with it, because Charlie Kirk was a Christian, but he was speaking about what was going on, and he just started. And then you have some of those ones who are in the spaces, like a Candace Owens, who really is speaking out, saying America is not free, that it's under the rule of the place I just mentioned. And those are the ones they really got to watch it, because we just seen an assassination where they are telling me it's this skinny school dude with mental problems, but this was organized hit to me. And somebody walking around with some little problems, maybe he could be used, but to me, there's also some, I know not to trust either side. Either side's played us to pick a side by seeing stuff. And I'm a Pisces, which is definitely, anybody knows it's strong. I have to watch the emotional aspect of myself, because Pisces are connected to emotions. Definitely, I got to watch it because I'm definitely a total empath. I can watch a movie which is phony and have empath from it, and even the story may start tearing up. I can, because I definitely feel other people's pain, and then a movie's not real, right? So it can be even used, not when it's just a story that may not, it's just a movie. It's not really real reality. It just could be just a movie, not even a true story. But I knew I had to step back, because I went through it, and I've known for a long time politics is fake. I've only voted, to be honest, once. And it was my later life. I voted for Obama's first term because I thought, hey, yeah, da-da-da-da, black president, da-da-da-da. Second term, I didn't, because I already seen, I was like, this, wow, this guy? I'll just stop it there, because of policies and some of the things he did. which a lot of people won't know on the left and will not buy. If you try to tell them, they're not going to listen because of the programming or just the rate. Some call it, I call it even almost becomes racial idolatry when it's just something because it's the same color. But I understand it got me in the platform of, I thought this was the first. And then I deep dive and I go, oh, there's two other black presidents way back before the Constitution, way back that we're not told about. And I found stuff like that out. But anyways, when I looked at it, I didn't, because I already knew from that book that they were both phony and that your vote didn't mean anything. Doesn't. Was that, and then Seven broke it down. Seven had this information. He broke down, then metaphysically, the word vote is volt. Energy, volts of energy. When you go cast your ballot, and ballot comes from Baal, which is also Canaanite, Phoenicianite god, Baal. Balut or ballot is like the feminine aspect. You're casting your energy into this ballot. Balut, Baal's feminine aspect. And they're stealing your volt or vote for energetic purposes. You're giving away your energetic purpose to them by casting your vote. And when he said that, I was like, slap in the face, like, whoa. For me, that's what I seen it. This was a number of years ago. Seven said that. And I was like, wow, I see that. And that makes sense, right? So I didn't. And I did only that one time. But all these are together in one. And like I said, recently I did about the woman, the young girl, who found out all these presidents are related, and Obama's related. He was the president at a time when she did the study. She wrote a letter to them, and they were like, oh, this is neat. This is cool. Let's celebrate her. But I'm like, the parents don't get that's really telling you they're blue bloods? To me, when I seen her finding, I go, oh, this really is supporting something I know inside. But she just gave me factual, showed evidence that they're blue bloods. And then the people not to get it shows you the cognitive dissonance and how the programming affects that everybody's under a spell in the majority of the masses. That's why Catholic Church called their services mass. Get the masses and program their ass and get them under the spell with your hijinks and your spells. Yeah, I see this as being the Christian Reich. I really do. And it was my fault the sound didn't work, but I got the sound to work. That's Archaics, who's what is he? He's a chronologist. Definitely comes from the chronologist side and is able to monitor time and years. He has been and was able to use. He actually has access to books written by scientists and other people 200 and 300 years ago where we're telling about events and things that's been hidden from us that they were actually writing about in the 17, 18, and even as back as the 13 and 1200s, stuff about what was going on, some of the cataclysms that were having them, about what the phoenix really is, which is him as a cataclysm. That's what the phoenix rising is. It ends the simulation, possibly, by like the flood. So I'm just seeing this with this. Beware, being in America, what's happening in Europe. And it's not always easy, but you can. I've gotten contact, and like I said, I was listening to the Europeans talk on this thing on YouTube, and the people that live there. And I got in their comments and listened to their comments and heard what they said, and I was like, whoa. They were telling the story. They were saying Europe is gone. Our countries are gone. We've been taken over. We should have never gave up our guns, and we should have had the rights. And they even said within themselves, I hope the Americans wake up and keep their guns. Don't let them take them from you. I hope the United States wakes up. They're looking for the hope in Trump. I know they're both sold out. His projection could be overboard in a lot of the stuff he's doing, because a lot of the stuff he's doing is still supporting the thing we don't understand, which I believe is the demiurge AI, because the system definitely is a number system, even in the reality we live. It's definitely ran by numbers, and it's just starting to look more and more like that. And cataclysms seems like every of these great societies from Egypt to Babylon and back, maybe even into before that, when you start going into Lemuria and that they get so high in technology, and then then all of a sudden cataclysms and the technology blows up in their face, and then it's a reboot and it starts over like the Great Reset they told us about. You can't, like a video I brought out just recently and talked about. We had the Georgia Guidestones that had 10 laws, like what we consider the law, had 10 laws. The very first one was population of 500 million. Do you know that we'd have to lose 90 people, 90% of our people, if not more, to get to that number now that are on the world? This is everybody, not one. Somehow through this programming, we're in a deep population fall now because it's falling through, I thought was the jibby jab, which does have its part in, but also when I really started looking at it, I really realized a few months ago, this was put in action a long time ago. This is not new. Anytime that, even like in the hood, we call it the hood in California, in the communities, there's always a clinic to abort children, right? For abortions. Why is it always there? Why is this stuff put there? Why are these things here? Because anything that has to do from the agencies of the government is an agent. That is the agent, the agency. Agency is part of the agent. The agency works for the agency. Even the agent works for the agency, even though they didn't know that. Maybe they just think they work for them, but they don't know really they're an agent of them. I worked for the Department of Mental Health for years, and I started realizing that. That's why I started saying my last years before I retired, before they forced me to retire because I wouldn't take the jibby jab. Because I was like, you think I'm going to take that? I mean, I told my boss, you think I'm going to take that? I ain't. But anyways, I just think that's funny that my boss said, come in the office. And they said, I'm with you. And they supported me and told me, just go through this process, retire early or retire medically, because they will fire people who don't take it. But anyways, I really realized I was working for an agency in mental health. And you go, how? I didn't give the meds. I gave counseling and support on how to remain independent with my clients. And I was glad I didn't prescribe medicine. I said, when you need to make an appointment or call your doctor, I don't prescribe. You need to give them the information, or her, whoever the doctor was. I don't do that, but I will let them know and put in my notes. But I'm going to tell you to call his office or her office to set up your medical situation. But I will let them know that you want to get a hold of them, because I didn't give meds. And it wasn't because I stayed on, let's get you independent by doing, coping skills. Get off drugs. I did do that. But I also knew that I was really now an agent to the agencies. The agencies already had put these things in order because they plan. Their planning is not off the cuff like this episode is. It's not off the cuff, folks. They plan for this as far as a century, if not more than a century and a half. If you go read Albert Pike's Morals and Dogma, which if you look in my videos, you can find it because I read it here. He gave the plans, if it was him, because it's not no proof that it was him, but everything in the plan has happened, from the Russian Revolution all the way through World War III, which we see now, to them, the ushering in of their Luciferian age. And this is in the Morals and Dogma. Fake, and I'm going to say it, fake Lucifer. Because when you know really what Lucifer is, it's not what they are promoting it as. It just, the knowers know. But anyways, just be aware of what they're pushing in these agendas. Just be aware. The whole world the stage. I'm not saying the guy wasn't killed. I'm not saying I know that it wasn't staged. But I know that whatever it wasn't done by haps. It was done for a purpose. And I know what he pushed at the college and some of the stuff he said in his arguments, being a right Christian, but also his arguments were against woke, and a lot of people who don't like that woke ideology that all 20 million genders and all that stuff. And it's being promoted at the universities, not from the streets. The streets don't fall for that. I've talked to people I know people in the streets. I used to coach them in football that are still talk to me. The communities that I used to coach sports, and I lived in a town that was definitely very diverse. Merced, California. California has a lot of diversity, and I was the head coach and coach youth football, and our teams were definitely diverse with Hispanic, white, and black. I knew a lot of the black, as anybody who knows me knows. My first wife definitely is black. I have 3 mixed boys. They are very close to me to this day. And they tell me, give me insight, and I know they're friends. And I know some of them who have turned out to be more street. And I talk to them, they go, Coach, they still call me Coach. Some of them that are doing more well, actually, I counsel every week, 30 and 40-year-olds. They just talk, they give me calls, and we do 4-way calls, 2-way calls, or whatever. Just talk about I talk to them about a positive mindset and stuff, right? They said, nah, we don't fall for this. It's not good. Transgenders, not in 30 million genders and all the stuff they were saying, boys can have babies, is not coming from the hood. It's coming from the universities, because that was indoctrinated with Marxism since the 60s. People tried to tell you that in the 60s, I remember them, but they were told they were tinfoil hats and they don't know what they're talking about. No, they were Marxists. They were pushing Marxist ideology. That's what they do. The Marxist ideology is to destroy the structure within. That's how they do. This is what the Bolsheviks did to the Russian Revolution of Russia to take it over. And I'll stop there, but just beware. I see this as the beginning of the forming of the Christian right, because some people are going to be influenced by this. And there's a lot of Christian blacks and whites that I could see them being on the right because they don't like what happened, and their ideology is still basic, traditional, and indoctrinated, and they don't see both hijinks of the other side, because the other side's laid low. Let's be honest, the right's always laid low. They didn't push all these programs. I knew from working in programs in mental health for decades, I even would say, oh, we got another program started. I go, that's not going to work. And then newbies would be like, why? You don't touch her. I've seen programs, 95% of them go away after 2 years, but they don't work. And they're like, they look at me with this voice, but we were taught that in college. I said, yeah, that's a problem. You're indoctrinated with this stuff. It doesn't work in the real world. That's why I said on my last episode, I even said that how many of them with master's degree would come to me, and when they would work, I go, that's not what masters do. Masters know what they're doing. And I wouldn't say that to them, as I wouldn't disrespect them, because they're my colleague and they're new. And when they come ask me, how do you have success with the clients you do? I can't do that. And I'm thinking, you have the master's degree, buddy or girl. But I understand the master's degree they have is from the university, and it's not really a master's degree. It's not like going to a master and getting the knowledge and becoming a master. And then you know the mastery of it because you become one. You get a master's degree, it has no heat because degrees are fire. Right? 300 is hotter than 250, but not as hot as 360. And 360 is not as hot as 400. This is actually the space around us, 360 degrees, is the spiritual amount of degrees that you're accumulating in spiritual consciousness, not some bachelor degree, which just means you're a non-married male and you haven't found your feminine energy yet, or your feminine aspect. And definitely not a master's degree, because the masters I run into and work with, they haven't mastered nothing. It would be like, this is what gets me even about doctoring and also attorneys and law. I'm telling you, the hijinks is everywhere. Once you start seeing the repetitive pattern recognition, is I go take my car to an auto mechanic. He never tells me he's practicing. No, I'm a technician. You don't practice? No, I'm a technician. So you're telling me you have to be technically sound to know what you're doing like a master. Yeah, I'm a technician. Technical, I know exactly what I'm doing. Then we go to these two professions of doctors and lawyers. Yeah, we practice law. We practice meds. Yeah, that's called hijinks. But anyways, I'll let you go. Just be aware. Be on your spiritual. Really indulge in meditation and be on the community. Listen. The ones who are, if you're awakening and open, that's great. Because learning, I noticed, I was waking up at 93 when I was 32 years old. I'm now 63. My process of those 30 years was a process. But I noticed the people recently that are even like 2010, that they're moving and the growth is a lot quicker than mine back then because it was a process. I woke up and came out of Christian dogma, but I was in Christian esotericism for 15 years. Helped with churches, started a church, helped somebody else with their church in Washington State, out of California. Was running after the elders who I met when I got in Christian esoteric, who were my age when I was 30 something, was they aged out, right? They got older, some passed away. I was still there. And then I kind of felt this to go out of state and do some other things, established an Christian esoterica, and then helped somebody else in a different city in the state who was 70 something years old, who had been there a long time with his. It was Christian esoterica. Then 2012, I had another awakening through meditation that I realized I needed to walk away from that to go to the next level. And I did. And it's funny to me that I really got Gnosticism within the last year, really dived into it. And I go, God, this would have went hand in hand with Christian esoterica and actually take it to the next level. But of course, it didn't happen that way, and found out about it now. Where if you ask me, Danny, are you Christian? I would tell you, no, I left it. But now that I understand Gnosticism, I'll say I hold the Gnosticism part of it. That's the part I hold, not the indoctrination from Rome. But you guys have a great day. Just be open. Man, just be open. I mean, there's stuff that people have shared with me. I was looking at the different things from Egypt, and I was this African guy had sent me a message on content because he heard some of my shorts. He said, I really like you, what you said. And I've been talking to him, kind of learning more about where their spirituality was. And it's kind of pretty neat to see when you start seeing the foundation. And even when I started seeing like the Tao and Buddhist foundations of esoterica, occultism, they have it. It just, they don't share it in the East with everybody from the West like we do in the West. It's just out there. You can find anything, Rosicrucianism, you can find alchemy, you can find all Hermeticism, you can find out the principles, you can find that. You have to search for the Chinese version and even the African version. You definitely have to know somebody or find somebody who does. But he seen my video on TikTok and he said, I appreciate you. And I said, oh, thank you. And he said, I appreciate you for your honesty. And then he kind of shared the story what that happened with them and their country from the past. And I said, yeah, I'm not surprised, brother, because I kind of know that's what they do. So just be open, because we're all one. They always want to divide us, because if we're not divided, we're uncontrollable. And that's why divide and conquer is their game. Their really only game. Because if they didn't have divide and conquer, nobody would be fighting against nobody over belief systems. We'd realize it don't matter what you look like outside. We be you, me. We're cool. We're being controlled out there by that. Let's unplug and have a unity and take away our power from them. But you guys have a great day. That would be my hope. That would be striving, because we need to be strong in this day. We do. Agendas are being pushed, and this is part of the psyops that we're seeing. You guys have a great day.